Going somewhere and you just need a place for your keys and a few other essentials? Or are you packing for a trip? Your chargers, earbuds, chapstick, it's never where you need it, right? That's why I'm going to show you how to sew the perfect zipper pouch. It's quick, simple, and will become your ultimate travel accessory. Whether you're exploring a new city or just headed to the gym, this pouch will keep your essentials right at your fingertips. So as far as supplies go, we're going to need fabric for the outer layer, fabric for the lining, and a 9-inch zipper.
Well, the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and cut out our pattern pieces. The easiest way to do this is to lay your lining fabric down and your outer layer of fabric on top of that so that you can cut out 2 pieces at one time. Now we're going to cut out roughly an 8x6 inch rectangle. Now head on over to my website, which is linked in the description below, as well as the pinned comment, to download the pattern with the exact dimensions. Now we're going to do this twice so that you have a total of 4 rectangles, which includes 2 lining pieces and 2 outer layers of fabric. Next, I'm going to trim my zipper because mine is longer than 9 inches. If your zipper is 9 inches, then you won't need to do this step. But if you do need to do this step,
make sure that you cut it down to 9 inches and then save the extra piece because you can always use that for a future zipper later, just by adding a zipper pull to it.
Next, I'm just going to sew over the edge of the zipper a few times to create a new stop since I cut mine off. Next, you're going to start constructing the zipper pouch. Lay your lining fabric face down and then line up the zipper to the very edge. After this, you're going to take your outer fabric and lay it face down along the edge. Now I ended up having to pin the zipper to the lining fabric before laying the outer fabric just because the zipper began to move when I placed it there. Once you have the pieces all pinned in place, you're going to sew down that line with the zipper foot. Now when you sew this, you're going to have to account for the space of the zipper pull, which will get in the way. So it's going to have to be sewn in 2 different segments, which will involve moving the zipper out of the way after you've sewn it down one time. Now don't forget to change out your presser foot to the zipper foot. Make sure you choose the side of the zipper foot that you'll be sewing on. I'm going to sew with the zipper together because I think it's easier that way. So I'm going to start below where the zipper pull is in order to avoid the bulk of that. Now you want to make sure that you line up your fabric so that the edge of the zipper foot directly abuts the zipper that you can feel beneath the fabric. This ensures that it sews a straight line along the zipper without interfering with the zipper or going over it. Be sure to sew it down the whole way, securing it with a back stitch at the end. Next, we're just going to open up our fabric and then pull that zipper down so that the zipper pull is no longer in our way, so that we can go ahead and sew down the top piece. So next, go ahead and sew that top piece down, trying to align it with the existing stitching. Make sure to do a back stitch to secure the threads. We'll go ahead and open the fabric and close the zipper because we're going to need that again later. Next, we're going to repeat the same steps as before. Take your lining fabric and lay it face down, and then line up your zipper to the very edge of the fabric, which in this case will be attached to the pieces we've already sewn. Next, you're going to want to take your outer layer of fabric and turn it over, face down, and pin it to the edge of the zipper. Then we're going to sew down the zipper, just like we did before. Now make sure that you remember to account for the zipper pull. Next, we're going to open up all our pieces so that the zipper is in the center, showing and laying flat. Then we're going to iron our pieces so that it lays flat so that we can sew a top stitch along each side of the zipper. Now we're just going to sew a top stitch along each side of the zipper, very close to the edge to hold the fabric in place. Now you want to be very precise with this step, and you're going to want to get as close to the edge of the fabric on the zipper side as possible. And you'll have to account for the zipper pull in this exercise the same way as when we were originally sewing the zipper in place. Make sure you do a back stitch at the beginning to secure the threads. And then take your time as you're doing this. Make sure that it's really precise. It's going to be very visible.
Now, if you're finding this tutorial helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel.
Now the next step is where we sew the zipper pouch together. Now you'll want to open up the zipper,
And this step is really important.
if you don't open the zipper, you won't be able to flip the zipper pouch inside out when we're finished. So next you're going to want to put both the outer layers of fabric together and both inner layers of fabric together. You're going to want to start by lining up the zipper. Now the zipper is going to fold one way or the other, and it should naturally fold in towards the lining fabric. But either way, you're going to want to make sure that they're both flipped to one side so that they lay flat, and then pin those in place.
It can be sometimes a little bit tricky to get things lined up well here.
Once you have the zipper piece pinned, then you're going to want to pin the rest of the sides of the fabric together. You may need to trim some edges along the way to make sure that things line up appropriately. This is normal. Once you've done that, you're going to want to mark a space in the end of the lining fabric alongside about a fist width distance. Usually I mark this with separate pins to remind me not to sew that opening so that you can flip the zipper pouch inside out when we're done. Next, we're going to sew around the edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, except for the space that we've marked not to sew. Now I recommend that you line up your fabric with the start of one of the places that you've marked to keep the fabric open, so that you can sew around the entire perimeter in one fell swoop. Make sure to do a back stitch at the start. And then when you reach corners, you can put your needle down and then pivot the fabric. Lift your needle back up and begin sewing again. Make sure to secure the threads with a back stitch at the end. Now, one additional step I like to take that isn't required is that I like to go around the edge of my fabric one more time with the overcasting presser foot and an overedge stitch to really secure those raw edges.
Since this fabric frays quite easily.
At this point, I like to go ahead and cut the edge of the corners off so that they lay flatter when turning the bag inside out. Just make sure not to cut the actual stitching holding the bag together. Next, using the opening that you left in the lining fabric, we're going to turn the bag inside out. Now you may need a point turner tool to help get some of those corners to really be punched out and lay flat. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Next, we're going to fold in the edges of that lining opening and press it down. We're also going to press down the rest of the bag so that it lays nice and flat. Now here you want to make sure that those raw edges of the lining are folded down so that it lines up nicely with the rest of the edge of the fabric. Pin it in place so that we can go ahead and sew that edge down. Next, sew the opening in the lining closed. You're going to want to sew as close to the edge of the fabric as possible, just like when we were doing the top stitch. Now take your time here and be really precise. Now you may find that when you sew this down that there's a piece that didn't quite get caught in the fabric and an opening still remains. That's okay, just go ahead and set your seam allowance a little bit further in and re-sew a new line. And lastly, just turn your bag inside out, make sure the corners line up good, and voila, you have a finished zipper pouch.
Now, what would you use this pouch for? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you found this tutorial helpful and whether or not it was easy to follow. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you may want to check out this one.